Alright everyone, welcome back for another episode of the ICA Show. I am Alan, your host, and today I am not joined by my co-host. Instead I'm joined by Yujong, Leia, and Ethan. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Good.
Right, perfect. So, last week we had the New Jersey Grade School Championship Tournament, where everyone here had a very successful tournament. That's why they're on the show. So, let's start with Yujong. Yujong, how did you do at the tournament?
I was in the 5th grade for this tournament, and I got 5 out of 5.
5 out of 5, so you're an invincible, yeah?
Yeah.
Pretty good. Leia, how'd you do?
I was in the 7th grade, and I won 4 out of 5 and got 2nd place.
4 out of 5 in 2nd place, also pretty good. And lastly, Ethan?
It's 12th grade. I got 4 out of 5, and I got 2nd place also.
2nd place. And my biggest accomplishment was pulling out of the tournament as a director, as I had things to do, such as hosting this show and lots of homework. So unfortunately, I could not be there to watch everyone do well. But congratulations to all three of you. So before we get into the games, let us start with Yujong. So Yujong, when did you start playing chess?
I started playing chess around 7 years old.
7 years old. And how old are you now?
I'm 11.
So only 4 years, not that long. Yet from what I've been hearing, you have been getting much better recently, and that's all thanks to Ethan, right, Ethan?
Yeah.
Not. Yeah, he's strong.
Ethan, when did you first meet Yujong?
3 summers ago.
3 summers ago. And
So,
When
Yeah.
I was 9, I think.
yeah, that makes sense. 3 summers ago, because 3 summers ago.
did you coach him, or did you coach him at all?
I had him for like 1 week, I think. And for a couple of weeks, but I was there a lot that summer. I saw Yujong a lot that summer.
Yeah, despite not coaching and seeing him, like Ethan was telling me before, how he sees lots of potential, which has been true. When I first heard of Yujong, it was probably this summer, and the reports hearing how he beat all the coaches, and then we were in the same section for Osfield. I thought I'd do well, we'd play each other, but unfortunately lost to Harlan 2nd round, so couldn't get to the final to play you. But regardless, congratulations to all three of you. Let's get right into it, no more talk. So, in this game here, Yujong is playing as black. So just like always, follow my lead, and I'm going to go through moves. If there's a key moment, stop me, and I'll be asking questions to Yujong and Ethan mostly, but Leia, also feel free to contribute, even though this is not your game, alright? Let's do this. So Yujong's highlight game, here he is black. So e4, d6, Caro-Kann, one of my favorites, d4, d5, takes, bishop d3, knight c6, c3, knight f6, bishop f4, a6. So yeah, classic Caro setup, but what I'm usually used to is seeing someone bring out the light squared bishop right away. So you want to explain what you think in your setup, Yujong?
So I really wanted my opponent to play knight f3 so that I could pin the knight to the queen, which is usually I like to play this setup. But since my opponent played bishop f4, I just played the waiting move, which just helped my position.
That's fair. All right, we move on. We move. Knight d2, e6, seeing how, as you said, the opponent will not play that knight to f3. So e6, blocking the bishop, but still opening the other bishop, so not the worst. Knight g to f3, bishop d6, bishop g3, queen c7, castles. So ordinary opening, nothing too interesting happened. Ethan, give a plan for white and a plan for black.
Okay, so I don't like the bishop on c8 for black. So my first thing is how are we gonna get this bishop out, right? We just played. Jeez. Okay. So I don't like the bishop on c8, and so the plan is I need to get this bishop out, right? 2 plans. Either I somehow break for e5, or I have to play bishop on b7. I don't think it'll be easy to play e5, so probably b5, b7.
Hmm.
And then for white, knowing that you have an easier plan, um, white should just play in like normal moves. White should play rook e1 95 and just enjoy the fact that they have slightly more active pieces. This position is equal.
Yeah.
There's not a winning advantage that like, oh, the bishop's on c8. It's just, you have to somehow maneuver that bishop out, connect the rooks. So
Yeah.
personally, I like white a little bit more, but that's not to say that black's position is bad. This is a very solid position.
Yujong, you blocked your bishop. Ethan doesn't like it. What's going on?
Yeah, so when I knew my opponent wouldn't just let me pin the knight to the queen, I just gave up on that and I just went e6 and I just decided to play bishop d7, move my knight and try to get my bishop on c6.
Hmm.
That's a very solid plan.
All right. So we move to that rook e1, rook e8, knight e5, bishop d7, knight d to f3, rook a to 8, just more development, knight g5.
Yeah.
So this moment is pretty interesting in that it seems as if white does have a good attack on both f7 and h7. But Yujong, are you scared? How do
Yeah.
you go about
I
stopping this?
was really scared when my opponent played knight g4. I'm at 5 because my f7 pawn is weak. He probably has some attack on my h7 and f7 square, and if I was thinking like rook f8 or rook e7 to defend my pawn, and then I was really scared of queen c2 going on that diagonal.
Hmm. Ethan, you see anything? Anything concrete for white?
Right now, I don't see anything concrete for white, but yes, I do like white's position. Well, I mean, yeah, you have to defend f7. You can't let that pawn fall. I don't know how Yu Jung did it, but yeah, I mean, I prefer white, but nothing concrete yet.
So yeah, Yujong played rook e7, which, knowing that the rook came from f8, I don't mind that move, even though the rook, it seems as if Ethan, the rook doesn't have, aside from the e file, does the rook have a future?
No.
Yeah, no, the rook. Yeah, no, honestly, the rook on e7's main purpose is just to defend f7. I mean, maybe you play rook f8, which is a move that you don't want to make considering that the rook came from f8. But yeah, like the rook there, eventually you'll have to move because I don't think you're gonna get an e5 break anytime soon. So but I mean, you kind of have to make moves like rook e7 in positions like this, even if it's not like ideal. You don't really have a choice. So I mean,
Hmm.
you shouldn't harp over the fact.
Yeah, but let me ask you, is it worth asking you if, if Yujong were to play this game again, how he could have avoided this situation in the first place, or is everything here just fine and he could just ride the storm? Like, is there something he should have done before?
Okay, so can you go back actually to the beginning of the game?
How
Almost.
far? Oh,
I actually genuinely the first couple of moves.
all right.
So
E4, C5,
c6,
C6.
e4,
d5.
d5, takes. I used to be a Caracan player, and this actually is what stopped me from playing it. So after knight c6, c3, knight
Okay.
f6, bishop f4. The main move for black is actually to play bishop g4, right? Bringing out the bishop because,
Yeah.
like, like in the game, Yu Zhang is having trouble with this light square bishop, right? But
Hmm.
then the problem with this is that it leads to like a very theoretical line where you kind of just need to know the theory, which people don't really want to do. Still, maybe I'd take the risk and I'd bring my bishop out to g4. I think it's almost a necessary thing considering what the idea is, right? And like, let's say that if you play knight f3, you're happy with this because eventually the idea is to trade the light square bishop for a pair of knights. And although we don't have the two bishops, as you see in the position that happened in the game, the two knights are a lot stronger than this light square bishop. So
Yeah.
it's actually a decent strategy to try to trade off the light square bishop for a pair of one of the knights, right? So that's one thing. And if you continue on with the game, there's something I noticed. E6, knight f3, bishop g6, right? Bishop g3. This is all solid stuff. My only thing is when you commit to a move like a6, logically, I just think that the bishop belongs on the b7 h1 diagonal, right? No. I'm saying go on a
Hmm.
couple of bishop g3.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Um, Yujong was playing for bishop d7 and bishop c6. I think
Mm-hmm.
I would just play for b5 and bishop e7, right?
Mm.
That's just what I think. I think the bishop makes more sense on this diagonal, right? But
Yeah.
if we look at the position in the game after knight g5, it's not like a losing position. It's just like you feel it. You feel the knights are like in your territory, and you kind of feel the sense of urgency, even if there's nothing concrete yet. You feel that it's there. But this is still like after rook e7. This is still like a very fine position for black. I don't see any glaring issues for black.
Mm. Leia, any thoughts so far? Are you a Carl player?
I used to be. I didn't really play it for a long time, but I've never really seen a position like this played in a Caricom.
Hmm. Yeah, it is pretty interesting how what is like. It's just interesting how I agree with you. I usually don't see these positions. How what has both knights in the attack. Usually see black making a break instead of black being as defensive right away. So I agree with you on that, Leia. But yeah, we move. Queen b3. I don't know. I don't know, Ethan. I'm really not a
I
big fan
don't.
of this
I
move.
don't. I think just white has the priorities misaligned
Yeah.
because white's play is on the king side. White is trying to. When you see a position like this with the knights this far advanced, you should be thinking of moves like rook e3, maybe bishop h4, right? Or even like queen c2, right? We want to like apply pressure on the king side, but a move like queen b3 brings a very powerful piece like away from the action. Oh, it's good. It's good for you, Jung. It's good for you, Jung.
It is good for you, Jung. Let's see what happens next to you, Jung. So
Okay.
h6 takes. Two knights for a pawn and a rook, which honestly could be pretty good for black. Bishop takes, queen takes, a5. So white's up a pawn, but it seems as if the whole attack is gone, and black can himself counterplay Ethan.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm just curious what Yu Jung thought because I guess that was White's plan. White's plan was that they want to take on b7 in the end of this line, right? The general rule of thumb is two pieces are better than a rook, but in this case, White has two pawns. So I bounce the question to Yu Jung. After playing a move like a5, do you think you're better? Do you think it's equal? What do you think the position? Like, how would you evaluate the position for Black?
So when my opponent played Queen b3, I was really relieved that they didn't go for Bishop h4, Rook e3, and attack on the king side. But I saw this line and I just thought my opponent would play it because it just ruins his whole advantage. But
Hmm.
now that he plays it, so can you go back to Queen takes b2? I'm b7. Yeah.
Yeah.
So before a5, yeah, I calculated this line with Rook b8 and Rook takes b2 and trying to attack him, but I just thought it would be too risky, and I just decided to keep my only queenside pawn.
That's fair. Ethan, what would you do? Rook b8 right away or a5?
Um, I think I like a5. Yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't want to give him like all these connected pass pawns, or like I don't want to give him a pass pawn. I mean, so
Leia,
I like that.
Leia, you're in agreement?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement with you all. a5, have it now that knight protect the pawn. Queen b3, e5. Now, making a break, but giving yourself an isolated pawn. Ethan, is the disadvantage of the isolated pawn? Does the break in the space compensate for it here?
Um, I think it will. I think moves like e5 are very logical, right? And worst case, you play a move like bishop e6. Not worst case, you play moves like bishop e6, and the isolated pawn is actually fairly defended. And isolated pawns are not always ideal, but like it's kind of something that usually leads exciting, promising play. So
Yeah.
you kind of have to play moves like e5, So I like it. I like the logic behind it.
Yeah. Yujong, I'm going to take one move back, and I'm going to ask you the question. So you're down a pawn. This pawn is successfully defended. Good. What's your plan now? How do you counter?
So I was really thinking of moving my king to g8, putting my knight on g4, and trying to attack his f7 and h2 and f2 pawns, because there's literally no defenders near the king right now. So
No, yeah, that is a big thing. How White decided to make their play on the queen side, so there are literally no defenders on the king side. So yeah, go for it. See what happens. A5, queen, pawn, takes, c4, bishop e6, takes, takes, and now seems as if black has all the space. To me, it seems as if white traded away the advantage. Queen here, takes, takes, takes.
Queen a3 is a blunder. You can't.
Queen
yeah,
a queen a3 is a blunder.
Yeah, but honestly, like even still, like black's position has gotten so much better very quickly.
yeah.
Yeah. Let me ask you, Jung. So aside from what we analyzed before of white winning the pawn and putting their play on the queen side, after that exchange, at what point did you feel that's it? This game is mine now.
Yeah. As soon as I played e5 and my opponent took, I knew I had some play on the king side, because
Mhm.
I was using my knights to go forward, attack his weak bishop, his weak pawns, and use my extra piece as an advantage.
Hmm. Yeah, that is clear. Ethan, let me ask you then. So at this point, obviously there was the blunder here. Before then, you mentioned that White did have lots of positional disadvantages. Yu Jung got himself ahead in the game positionally. Redeem
Mm.
White. Redeem White.
Redeem white. It's a
Redeem
little bit
White.
difficult in this position because honestly, like I think Yu Jong hit the nail on the head. Like even though you kind of have to take on e5 after this position is like not the best, but you definitely can't take on d5 because then it just opens up the position, right? Even like because even
c5.
after c5 is I didn't think about c5 because the knight on e5 is hanging.
C5 is what the engine recommends.
But I don't think like honestly like I don't think I would come up with c5, right? I think
Hmm?
I think realistically I might just play like a move like this is very tricky position for white actually because the flow of play comes a lot more naturally for white. Um I mean obviously now with the information I know maybe c5, but I would probably just play check on b7. Like this is like what my brain's telling me. I play queen b7
Check
check.
on Queen B7 check. All right,
Yeah.
Queen B7 check.
I go rook d7, rook, rook
And
Oh
d7.
yeah,
then
rook d7. And now the d3 thing is
where does
hanging.
the queen
Actually,
run?
it has to go back to b3. I okay, queen b7 is a blunder. Disregard what I said. Queen b7 is a bad move
Yeah,
because then you
I
could take on
disregard what you
c4.
said. Let's
Yes, disregard what I said.
let's
I
calculate the
actually
C5
don't know what
variation
I would.
quickly. Let's calculate the C5. So
c5.
Queen
let's
c7,
see.
queen c7.
Queen where? C7?
Yeah, that's the only move.
Hmm?
And then before the engine, yes.
And
So I
then
played bishop
from
f1.
there, it just recommends. Why?
Um, I'd say because maybe you can even reroute the bishop to g2, like bishop f1, g3, and
Hmm.
bishop g2, right?
Yeah.
And I think white has to understand that there is a potential. Like, I don't know if you're gonna get mated, but there's going to be a kingside attack, right? You have two knights that
Mhm.
Yeah.
you're like looking at these squares. You have a open F file, right? But the only consolation white has are the queen side
Yeah.
majority, right? White can maybe make a pass pawn on the queen side. The c5 pawn is already pretty advanced, right? So if I'm white, I probably just want to keep onto my bishop because it could potentially be useful in the future, and not get mated because
Mm.
the attack comes very quickly. It moves like knight g4, then knight e4. The attack comes very quickly for black.
Yeah. All right. We move. So in the game, what actually happened was, unfortunately, there was a blunder. Let's analyze, see how far it actually got before the game finished. Knight back, pawn push, check, king here, knight goes away, bishop goes in, check, white wins a rook, black wins a rook, knight goes in, check, knight in, and in the end, checkmate with a knight.
Yeah, with the knight, that's nice.
Yeah.
Not bad. So,
Mhm.
Ethan, give me your quick in-game summary of what happened, how black got back in, and what
Yeah,
white went
so
wrong.
I think Yujong remained kept his cool, right? Even with the knights in his territory, he didn't really let that bother him. Played sound moves, and I guess you can just see that Yujong played normal looking moves, right? Developing moves, breaking in the center, and it just shows that the basic principles usually work. And I think Yujong showed that principles matter over like potential material advantage. So I think it was a very good game.
Leia, what's your thoughts on this game that you just saw?
I think that even though White blundered with the queen move, White was already losing before that, and Black was in the lead even before that. blunder.
And Leslie, Yujong, what are Yujong's thoughts on Yujong's game?
So I was really nervous when the knights came in, but once I saw queen b3 and I saw where my opponent was going, I just knew that they just blundered the whole attack. And from there on, I just used my pieces. And so in the middle, when I tried to break in the center, if they did play c5, my plan was to go knight g4, knight e5, and then just attack on the queen side. So that just when my opponent blundered queen a3, they had about 7 minutes, and it was their fourth frame, so I predict they were really tired.
All right, good stuff. So, before we go on to our next activity, I'm going to take everybody to the commercial break. And the commercial break, as always, on our website, ICANJ.net. So as everybody should know by now, our winter semester is open, registration is open, and in fact, our first class starts tomorrow. How to get to our website? Well, you just type in ICANJ.net, and you can see, for example, on our blog, you can see a report, how lots of our players, including Yujong himself, won first place in the tournament. You want to go see your classes? Go to chess classes, 2023 winter semester, St. TNEC. And from here, you can see our class dates, our weekly schedule, or you can register. Any questions? Please contact us, go to our Instagram, comment on our YouTube, and we will answer it. So, at this point, what we'd usually do is we'd go analyze your second game, and then we'd wrap up the show. But for this extended episode, I'd like to do something a little different. I'd like to have a proper game of chess played on our show for the first time. So Yujong, Leia, are you two ready?
Yeah.
All right. Let me know when you guys are ready, and I'll put your screen up, Yujong. So just send Leia a request, and let me know when you're ready.
Yeah, I sent it.
Leia, do you see it?
Yep.
All right, let's go. So, it's a blitz game, 5 minutes, and let's give it real-time reactions. So far, So far, so good.
Yeah,
So
this
far,
is
so good
something I
for
mentioned
both.
to Yujong over the summer, or I mentioned even in this episode. I think Yujong has a very strong grasp on types of positions you want. Even if the theory's not there, very good grasp, right? The light square bishop is usually bad for black in these close positions, and trading it off is a good strategic decision.
Alright, while we're playing, we have an announcement from our director, Diana Tolman. Let's read it. Some of ICA students are playing at National Congress. One of the results already known. Jack Holder got second place in under 1200 and won $500. Congratulations to Jack. Hopefully you can see you on the show soon. Let's see from Jonathan Zhang. Let's see who wins this game. I wonder. Currently, I don't know, seems like Ethan in even position to me.
Yeah, it seems like a pretty even position. I mean, yeah, it's an even position.
Although it states even, where play is slowly getting a time disadvantage here.
I guess we have to see what the plan for both sides will be, because now as we're nearing the end of development, we have to come up with a plan to win the game.
Right, while they're playing, let's see what track comes next. Ethan, what theme should I go for? Acoustic cinematic, dance pop, daydreaming, feeding the ducks, into space, lo-fi, or night driving?
I think acoustic cinematic. Yep.
Yujong, Leia, thoughts on the music?
Ooh, this is not what I anticipated.
Interesting choice.
It seems like Yujong got a break.
Jonathan Zhang said feed ducks. Let's see the feed ducks.
Jonathan Zane.
I blundered.
Yeah, I mean, no, it's a tricky position. Yujong actually capitalized on a move, and I realized how the way he played. Yeah, and Yujong will win an exchange here. Granted, that's not the end of the world, but it is. Ooh.
Oh.
I didn't see that. Yeah, maybe I spoke too soon.
Welcome to the world of live commentary. Happens all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there's still outs for black actually, but will Yujong find it?
Oh my gosh.
This looks bad for black now. Well, Gokdu, you should work on your tactics because there's something. But it is a very hard tactic, actually. Actually, I'm not even sure if it works, but I think it does.
Oh man.
Yeah, Alan, when you're done, we can come back. I think my tactic works. You said that, but I don't see it. Yeah, that's why I said you have to work on your tactics.
Okay, I'm not sure if this works or not.
Can we get rid of the time, John? I don't think it works like that. Time is a portion of past, unfortunate time management.
Yeah, or else we'd be here till the morning with this position.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yep. Seems like Leia found. I like 91. It makes sense. But I like that move too, and that move also makes sense.
Okay, I don't know about this. Hey, am I winning?
Ethan, there's a question for you.
There was a question, but let's see how this turns out, and then I'll answer
Yeah.
that question.
All right.
But this seems very good for black, actually. It's a smart tactic, tactical weaknesses. This is type of stuff that might come up on Puzzle Rush. This might actually be better than what I thought of, actually. Yeah, and the only reason why that works is because you take which back. And yes, Gokdug, it was knight takes c3 and then knight takes d4, but it seems like what Yujong did is better. But, that's very good positioning for the white knight. I like that move. Both players, under a minute. This is when things become intense.
Let's make things more intense.
I don't know if I like the take. Makes the black bishop better.
I practice bullet a lot.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, and it looks like black is gonna.
I can't play on my time.
And time.
No,
All right, both of you. Excellent match. Before we move on, Ethan, thoughts on the game?
Oh yeah, no, it was really strong. I mean, the more chess you play, the more you realize that positions like this will become very common. These closed positions, and it's just a matter if you like closed positions or not. Yujong, from what I've seen firsthand, has a lot of experience on the black side of this, and Leia, I don't know your experience with the white side of these types of positions, but you have a strong center, but it's difficult. You need to make a plan, right? And like that's a very big thing in chess. You have to make a plan once you're done developing your pieces. I don't like making plans either, but you have to make them.
All right, Yujong, can you take us back to that moment?
What?
the moment where,
Here?
yeah,
Yeah, I don't know. It was
Like here?
to go like one before.
all right, here we
Yes,
go.
Rook C1's a very tricky move. You know,
Ethan, what were your thoughts?
I was thinking knight f takes e3,
Knight
Knight
F.
f takes
Yeah,
e3.
and
that's what happened.
then pawn takes,
Oh
and
wait,
then
look at.
Yeah, what
knight.
did the engine say the best move was?
Should I do game review?
Oh, no.
Analysis.
Okay. Queen C7 was just better, I guess. I
Hmm.
guess because of the same idea. Knight takes
Yeah,
D5.
but let's say knight takes e3, pawn takes e3, and then what you play queen c6.
Oh, King F2. Yeah, I guess because it
Okay.
wasn't check.
Yeah, king f2 is a very difficult move to find because the idea with king f2 is that you're gonna play knight e1, and then Yuzhong doesn't have the knight takes d4 trick, because the only reason why the knight takes d4 trick works is because the check, which was shown in the game. I didn't see that. My thoughts. Can you go back one move? My thoughts were if you play pawn takes and knight takes d4 in this position.
But Knight takes D4. I go and then check. I
King
go
d7,
King D7 and then Knight takes.
knight takes.
So if I go
Mm.
like this, it goes up like this. Or actually no. And then
Oh yeah, okay. Yeah, oopsies. Yeah, no. Yeah. So then I guess Leia, you probably just missed knight takes d4, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a tricky move. Like this, like knight takes d4 is like a tricky move. Like it's like pretty hard to find these. I didn't see it initially, so I mean I think you played well though. It was a pretty high quality game.
All right, so now it's time where we turn our attention away from Yujong and we turn our attention back to Leia. So Leia, before we start the game, you're gonna get your interview just like Yujong. So let me ask you, when did you start playing chess?
When I was like 3 or 4.
3 or 4. And how old are you now?
I'm 12.
Oh, so you've been playing now for like pretty much 8 years.
Yeah.
It's pretty long. When did you start officially taking classes?
Not sure. I think maybe 6 or 7.
And let me ask, who is your favorite ICA coach?
I think Danny.
Danny. And why? What's so good about his style of teaching?
He looks really deeply into all the games and into every variation, and you really learn a lot from each game you analyze.
Hey, that's fair. And actually, that's the reason why I got Luke on as my co-host for the show. The reason this show started was I had a game where I played, and I lost the game, and I took it to Luke because I was thinking maybe he gave me a good analysis, and the analysis that he gave me was so good that as a result, we decided to make a show together because of how good his analysis was, and we thought it could work. So this deep analysis is what inspired this show. So Leia, let me ask a question. Do you know Gabriella?
Yeah.
Let's get her on. Gabriella, turn
Hi.
on your.
Oh.
Okay.
Hold on. Yeah. Hi.
Hi. Are you also a chess player?
Kind of. Not really.
Kind of. Not really. Well, what are you doing on the show?
Support Leia.
You're gonna support Leia. All right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know how much analysis you can give, but since you're Leia's friend, I guess you're welcome onto the stage. So let's get right into it. So now we have all levels from a beginner to an almost NM and Ethan. So yeah, let's get started. E4, E5, knight f3, knight c6, d4, going for that scotch, bishop b4, c3, bishop d6. So, Ethan, I
Yeah.
always get in a pickle. Like, I always get nervous when I see my opponents playing d4 because it seems as if white gets a big attack right away and black has to be sharp to defend it. I don't think bishop
Yeah.
b4 is the answer, though. What do you think?
I mean, the only thing with is like after c3, you have to move the bishop again, right? And then just like you don't want to generally you don't want to move the same piece twice in the opening. I mean, don't take that you know as word, but that's just like what I think, right? But
Hmm.
surprisingly, okay. Actually, can you go a couple more moves? Right.
All right.
Actually, yes. After d5, having a bishop on d6 is not as bad as it looks,
Hmm.
which
So let
which
me
is
ask you.
weird.
Yeah.
It's weird.
So let me ask you. When you see d4, what do you play?
I think you have to take
You have to
because
take. Yeah.
because I mean I don't know what else you could play. The only other thing I think you could play is d6, but d6 looks a little bit passive.
Yeah, I agree. Especially with
Yeah,
d5, and the knight doesn't have many squares left.
yeah. So you kind of
So yeah,
have to take. I think.
then bishop goes here.
Yeah. Now this is what people don't like. The problem with this is you actually you kind of just need to know the theory because
Mhm.
otherwise it becomes very ugly for black very quickly. Like let's say knight f6, right? Then there's already e5, right?
Mhm.
And then it's like this become if the knight moves to like let's say g4, there's already moves like I mean
h3. We want
no
to go
because
for
then you can play knight takes e5. You can even play bishop takes f7 right now.
right away.
Yeah, king takes f7, knight g5, and then king summer e8 maybe.
What about queen takes g4 here?
The bishop.
Well,
Oh wait, yeah.
yeah, that's the idea. And then you take back the knight, and you can say whatever you want about this position, but I don't like the fact that black can't castle, right?
Mhm.
So the problem is with these Scotch positions is that white gets initiative very quickly. So if you don't know how to neutralize that advantage, it could be very difficult for black. So honestly, playing a move like bishop b4, right?
Mhm.
Mentally it, it's a smart decision because white probably didn't expect it. Like
According
even
to
if
the
you
engine.
yeah, no, C3, no, yeah, no. White is definitely better after this, but it's just like
Mhm.
I think when you deal with people who kind of only just know theory for and
The main line.
yeah, right. Sometimes it's good to throw those people off. So it's C3, bishop D6. I think I like it. I like it.
Yeah. All right. So before we move on with the game, let's do a quick Scotch lesson. So everybody that's watching the show will be prepped on it for good. So d4, pawn takes, bishop c4, and we already said why knight f6 is not ideal. So Ethan, what would you play?
No, I think you actually do have to play knight F6, right? But then the thing is, after E5, um, you have to play D5, which is an unobvious move.
Yeah. So let's go through the variations. Pawn takes, and seems as if black is fine.
Yeah,
So let's look at en passant.
en passant, and then bishop takes,
Bishop takes,
and then again, black is fine. Let's say
and black is fine. So e5, d5, and
maybe bishop B5, right?
bishop b5.
And then black plays knight E4, let's say, and
Knight
then knight
e4,
takes D4,
knight takes d4,
bishop D7,
bishop d7.
and now this is fine for black again.
Hmm.
People like playing this position with both colors. Again,
Yeah.
right? Some people like this, some people don't. You're
Hmm.
not losing immediately. The problem with the Scotch is that it's very easy to lose immediately, right? Because White's development is so fast, right? I'm just saying, if you go to the third move, like when you play a move like d4, when you play a move like d4, both bishops are already open. There's a knight
Yeah.
on f3, right? And again, going back to the basic principle that the f7 square is really weak before you castle. The development comes very quickly, and f7 becomes a threat very quickly. So you kind of just have to know how to wiggle around it, because otherwise, give it 4 or 5 moves, and then you might already get mated. So yeah.
Well, Yu Jung, that's why I play the Karo, yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, bishop b4, c3, bishop d6. We already discussed this, but it's alright, we move. d5, knight c7, bishop d3, knight f6, bishop g5, knight g6. And yeah, seems as if, like I said, black is fine.
Yeah, actually, I kind of like these positions for black. I think it's very smart to bring the knight to g6, because it looks like black's play might be on the king side.
Yeah. Although there is one more thing that we should address before we move on with the game. So bishop b4, it gave white a huge advantage. c3, bishop goes back, but then it seems as if white completely lost the advantage throughout the next 3 moves. So give a plan for white, Ethan, to have white maintain the advantage.
There's no reason to play d5 right now, so I'll just play bishop c4, castles, queen e2, stuff like that.
And you just keep the space.
Yeah, and then because a move like d5 is not going anywhere. You're not pressed to play a move like d5 immediately.
Yes. Alright, so we already got here. h6, bishop goes back, queen e7, knight c4, castles, takes, queen b3, c6, c4, queen c7, h3, e6, castles.
I like what black
Lots
has
of
done.
moves were played. What did you say?
I like what black has done with this position.
Yeah. Leia, so at this point, lots of moves are played. Not much really happened, to be fair. Just lots of development. But let me ask you, what was your plan here?
So my plan was my bishop was already pointing to his king and my knights were there. So my plan was to maybe get my queen towards there and then just attack.
Yeah, Ethan, despite this lot of nothing happening, I still sort of it's really closed. It's hard for me to say who I like more, because on one hand, black has no space. On the other hand, white's pretty much playing down a piece with that white squared bishop being completely useless.
Yeah, so I mean, again, this is actually a pretty typical setup, and I think black has a pretty good position. I think like you said, Alan, the bishop on e3 for white is pretty bad, right? And like Leia said, her plan is to somehow attack, and that's a very very doable plan.
Alright, yeah, so let's move and see how it transpired. Bishop d7, rook a c1, c5, getting a backwards pawn, but at the same time, suffocating white more. Queen c3, queen d8, maybe trying to hook the queen over to the king side. b4, b6, queen b3, knight h5, a4. So yeah, seems as if with the moves like queen d8, knight h5, you're trying to build something on the king side, white's trying to build something on the queen side. So it seems as if we're slowly starting to see the game opening up a little more. But as of right now, a lot of nothing happened. But yeah, it seems as if it's going to open up. Ethan, you agree?
Yeah,
How?
I know that both. This is a high quality game on both sides, because both black and white are playing this like you're supposed to. Black is playing on the king side, white is playing on the queen side, and I really like the knight h5 maneuver, because maybe the knight will come into f4, right? Overall, I like Black's position better, but I think this is high quality from both sides. Even if many pieces haven't been like traded off the board, strategically, both players are playing it very strong.
All right. Before we go on to the game, we have some more announcements from Diana Tolman. So at the Congress, Oleg Shevelenko, whose son Leon was on the show a few weeks ago, got 5 out of 6 points in the under 2200 section. So congratulations to Oleg. And James Strapunski tied for first in the under 1600 section. So pretty good results coming in as we're having this game from last week's big tournament. May the good times keep rolling, yeah?
Yeah.
And now let's go back to this game of high quality bus parking from both sides. So yeah, knight g8 to f4. I don't know, Ethan. I would have probably preferred to put the knight on the h file there.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I would prefer that too.
Because it seems that the best square for here would have been there, but now this knight on the h file is now just looking a little bit weak.
Yeah, its role now is just to defend the knight on f4, which is fine. But yeah, I agree. I would have played the other knight.
Yeah. And Leia, at what point were you considering a possible f5 push, if at all?
I didn't consider it that much because I thought that I would lose a lot of my attack and I'd open the light squared bishop for him. And I felt like it wouldn't make my position that much stronger. It would only be good for him.
Ethan, do you agree, or do you see a benefit in opening it up like that?
I think usually these f5 breaks are good, but I actually agree with it this time. You probably don't need an f5 break because I'm curious to see how she played this, but the king side attack is very real. Like give it a couple of moves and then
Yeah.
you sacrifice something. So let's see how she played this out.
Yeah, I will give you a couple moves. Rook f to d1, getting more pieces away from the king side, as is supposed to happen. Queen f6,
That's
king
smart.
h2, king h2, knight takes h3,
Yeah.
knight
Nice.
takes h3. I love it. Knight's defended by the bishop, so the pawn has to take if anything's going to take, which didn't happen. Instead, queen c2.
Yeah, and I
Knight-
guess just like a mental thing. Once you can play a move like knight takes h3, and like they can't take back,
It's just
you know you're doing good.
You know you're doing good.
No.
Knight 3 to f4, just going back. g3, knight takes d3. Now just completely destroying the center. Queen takes d3, queen takes f4. Now, at this point, yeah, black's just up a piece. Black has a really strong attack. White doesn't have that much at all. b5, queen g4, rook h1, f5. Now comes the break. King g2, opening up a discover of the knight, even though takes. And now there's just complete and utter domination.
Yeah,
Game over.
This is played really well. Like I think like look, both sides did what they're supposed to do. White on the queen side, black on the king side. But I think Leia realized that her threats are a lot more real and a lot faster actually. And she made quick work of her opponent.
Yeah, seemed like quick work, even though for a while it was a completely close game. Both sides, as I like to say, parking the bus. Not much happening. But Ethan, where do you think that White went from holding the position to the capitulation that we saw?
Yeah. So, even though this is like the pawn on h3 is very weak. I remember Irina told me once that once you move a pawn, your king just becomes more unsafe, right? So even though h3 looks like a very, very normal looking move, like it's a target, right? I don't know how I play this with white actually. I think maybe what you have to do. This is a couple move plan. Play bishop f1, king h2, and then g3, because the knights are just too strong.
Yeah.
And but you see that's like a 3-move plan, right? Leia's attack comes a lot faster than that.
Yeah.
So,
You-
I mean, I think you have to recognize that this is a potential, like, strategy for black, and you have to slowly work towards like doing something like this.
Yujong, what are your thoughts on the game?
Yeah, so I think Leia's attack was much more devastating, and the queen side attack was just nothing. You have nothing over there, and she just sprung all of her pieces over to the king side and just made a sacrifice.
Leia, what are Leia's thoughts on Leia's game?
I think I played a pretty clean game with a good attack.
I agree. And Gabriella, what are your thoughts on your friend's game? Gabriella?
Oh, sorry. Really good, and she made a really good, smart decision in defending her pieces. And yeah, attacking.
Yeah, very smart decision. All right, so at this point, we have covered both games. We played a blitz game. So yeah, good stuff, everyone. So next week, we're going to have another episode where we have another big panel on. As we saw from the comments, lots of our players had some crazy good results at the what was the tournament at the tournament in Philly
National Chess Congress.
at the National Chess Congress. Well, we went from the Eastern
Yeah.
Chess Congress to the National Chess Congress. So hopefully next week we'll get a few national champions on, and I will see everybody then. Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.